Hello to all pharmacy, medical, paramedical, and life science graduates and your career aspirants. Welcome to Clinosol YouTube learning channel. To learn more informative topics from us and for notifications on upcoming posts, please subscribe our channel by clicking on the bell icon. What can you learn here? You can learn about Clinosol slide events, courses, career scope opportunities, and many innovative programs by Clinosol Students Forum. In today's video, we are going to discuss about the sponsor monitoring. Next, coming to the content, we are going to discuss a few of the definitions like the sponsor definition, monitoring definition, frequency of monitoring, types of monitoring, monitoring purpose, selection and qualification of monitors, extent and nature of monitoring plan, procedure, and the report. Now we will discuss about who is a sponsor. A sponsor is an individual or institution or a company or any organization who takes the responsibility to initiate, manage or finance the clinical trial but doesn't actually conduct the investigation. I repeat, he is the one who takes the responsibility to initiate, manage or finance the clinical trial but doesn't actually conduct the investigation. Next, coming to what is monitoring? It is the act of seeing the progress of a clinical trial and of ensuring that is conducted, recorded, and supported in accordance with the protocol, standard operating procedures, good clinical practice, and any regulatory requirement. It means checking of the progress of the clinical trial and ensuring that it is conducted, recorded, and supported with a given protocol or any other requirements. And the monitor who is responsible for this monitoring is the main communication between the sponsor and the investigator. This monitoring also a part of the quality control system. Now we will discuss about the frequency of monitoring. How often the monitoring will be performed. According to the ICH, it states that the sponsor should ensure that all the trials should be adequately monitored before the study, during the study, and after the study. Sometimes the frequency may depend on the complexity of the study, rate of enrollment, and the GCP compliance issues. Now we will discuss about what are the types of monitoring. There are three types of monitoring: on-site monitoring, remote monitoring, and central monitoring. We will discuss each in detail now. First, we will discuss about on-site monitoring. On-site monitoring involves in-person evaluation carried out by the sponsor personnel or the representative at the investigation site, which means the on-site evaluation at the trial site area. The following activities are carried out during the on-site monitoring. The first one is reviewing the informed consent documentation. The informed consent, which is an important part of the clinical trial for the right, safety, and well-being of the trial subjects who are involved in the clinical trial. So, it is one of the responsibility of the monitor to check whether the patient has voluntarily participated in the clinical trial or not. By just with a simple copy of informed consent, he cannot justify that the patient had voluntarily involved in the clinical trial. So, he go for the further step by verifying the patient sign against the other documents and check whether the patient has voluntarily participated or not. He also discussed with the research personnel how the informed consent process is going on, and he also checks the other consenting documentations that are available at the trial site area to confirm that whether all the activities are conducting in accordance with the regulatory requirements. The second activity is enrollment information. In this, the monitor thoroughly reviews of all the medical records, either the paper or electronic, to ensure that all the patients involved in the trial has met the inclusion or the exclusion criteria. The next one is reviewing the essential regulatory documents and assessing the site's familiarity, the study agreements, required IRB policies, and the FDA regulations. In this, the monitor assess how well the site research personnel are aware of their own IRB policies and the study agreements. The next activity is assessing the investigator involvement with the study and also assessing the site's familiarity with the protocol and the procedure. The next one is reviewing the adverse events and the protocol deviation. In this, the monitor reviews whether the adverse events are related or not related to the investigational product, which helps to protect the patient safety. And by having the full access to the medical record, he also reviews for the unreported adverse events which may occur during or in between the study visits that are actually overlooked by the research coordinator. The next one is reviewing the protocol deviations. The minor protocol deviations may or may not affect the patient safety, but the major ones affect the patient safety and the welfare of the subjects. So the on-site monitor along with the site representative report these events to the sponsor along with the site IRB. If the repeated deviations are seen, the monitor may provide the retraining. The last activity is conducting the investigational product accountability. During the product accountability process, the monitor is able to tell whether if the product is stored in a secured logged location according to the sponsor's requirements and verify that whether the product the sponsor shipped to the site has been received and logged in appropriately or not. Additionally, the monitor takes the repeated inventory measures to ensure that no product is misplaced or misused. Second one is the remote monitoring. The remote monitoring involves off-site evaluation performed by the monitor away from the site at which the clinical investigation is being conducted, which means the trial monitoring is done away from the trial site area. And this monitoring allows all the pharma and CROs to remotely conduct the monitoring that were already conducted at the trial site area. And this monitoring also includes the delivering of documents to CRA through mail, fax, or snail mail to satisfy the monitor's queries and to conduct the source document verifications. And the third one is central monitoring. It is a remote evaluation of the study data carried out by the team, including the central monitors, medical reviewers at location other than the site at which the clinical investigation is being conducted, which means it is also conducted away from the trial site area but at the central location to the trial site, which is carried out by the central monitors and the medical reviewers. It performs the activities like mainly focuses on the critical data and the process and helps the sponsor in prioritizing what should be monitored first, and they identify the non-compliances or any training deficiencies in the real time. They also perform the data checks for the completeness and the consistency. Central monitoring also includes the other activities like they provide the additional monitoring capabilities that can complement or reduce the frequency of on-site monitoring. They also help distinguish between reliable data and potentially unreliable data. They also verify the source data remotely. They determine which sites needs on-site review and they identify the site with more errors, dropouts and the protocol violations. Now we will discuss about the monitoring purpose. Why do we need monitoring? What is the purpose of the monitoring? All these questions will be discussed now. Mainly, the first and foremost purpose of the monitoring is to verify that the rights and well-being of the humans is protected and to also verify that whether the reported trials are accurate, complete, verifiable from the source documents and to also verify that whether the trial conduct is in compliance with the currently approved protocol or amendment with the GCP and with the applicable regulatory requirement. Next, coming to the selection procedure and the qualification a monitor should have for the monitoring. All the monitors should be appointed by the sponsor and the monitor should be appropriately trained with the scientific or the clinical knowledge which is very essential to monitor the trial adequately. All his qualifications should be well documented and the monitor should be thoroughly familiar with the investigational product, protocol, written informed consent form or any other written information which is needed to be provided to the subjects, the sponsor SOPs, GCP and the applicable regulatory requirements. Next, coming to the extent and the nature of the monitoring. In this, the sponsor should ensure that all the trials are adequately monitored and they determine the appropriate extent and the nature of the monitoring based on certain considerations like objective, purpose design, complexity, blinding, size, endpoints of the trial. In general, there is a need for the on-site monitoring before, during, and after the trial. However, in exceptional circumstances, the sponsor determine that the central monitoring in conjunction with the procedures like investigator training, meetings, extensive written guidance can assure the appropriate conduct of the trial in accordance with the GCP. Statistically controlled sampling may be an acceptable method for selecting the data to be verified. Next, coming to monitoring plan. The sponsor should prepare a monitoring plan which is very specific to the human subject protection and data integrity risks of the trial. And this plan should describe all the monitoring strategies, the responsibilities of all the parties involved in the monitoring, and various monitoring methods to be used. And it should also emphasize the monitoring of critical data and the process. And particular attention should be given to those aspects that are not routine clinical practice but actually require the additional training. And this plan should reference the applicable policies and the procedures. Next, coming to monitoring procedure. What was the procedure a monitor should follow for the monitoring? He should follow both the established written standard operating procedure as well as other procedures specified by the sponsor for monitoring a specific trial. Next, coming to monitoring report. The monitoring report should be submitted by the monitor to the sponsor after each trial visit, and according to the sponsor's standard operating procedure, the report should include the date, site, name of the monitor, name of the investigator, or any other individual who are contacted during the study, and it should also include the summary of what the monitor reviewed and the monitor statements concerning the significant findings, facts, deviations, or any deficiencies, conclusions, actions taken or to be taken, or any recommended to secure the complaints. And the review and follow up of this monitoring report with the sponsor should be well documented by the monitor. I should thank Clinosol and Mujibuddin sir for giving me this opportunity to explore my knowledge and presentation skills. Thank you.